So we are here with Gary and Ginette. So Gary is the Nottinghamshire Police and Crime Commissioner.
I am.
And Ginette is, I'm not sure of your actual title, but she's an absolute superpower here in Nottinghamshire. I've known Ginette for quite a while. She is one of the children in care police officers. There's 3 in this area. And I wanted to get these guys together to just show everybody what Nottinghamshire are doing with their children in care police, because I personally think it's groundbreaking. I don't know of any other police force across the UK that has that. So that's why I wanted to get you guys together. And Gary had a chance meeting in Liverpool a few weeks ago, and he was telling me how you used to live in a children's home.
That's right.
And I just looked and I just thought, that is just so inspirational for care leavers everywhere to see, look where you can get, care leavers can. So I just wanted to really start by just asking you, about those early days when you was in care, if you can remember.
Absolutely. It was a long time ago. And I think one of the, in reflection, when I'm looking back at my experience in care, the difference in the resources available to those care leavers now to when I was in care. So I was in care from 6 months old as a baby, and I was in care for 7 years in what was known then as Dr. Bernardo's homes.
Yeah.
I was then adopted by my then social worker, who became my mother. And at the time as well, I was adopted by a white family.
Right.
So as a person of mixed race, that was unusual at the time. And I suppose in many ways it was very challenging to my adopted parents to bring me up and orientate me into the world.
Yeah,
and understand my needs.
Yeah, and your culture
and
as
my
well.
Culture. When you see photos of me, you will see young photos of me, because my mum didn't know what to do with my hair, so she used to blow dry it forward and down at the side. It looked terrible.
Yeah,
but that was all part of my experience in growing up. And what was, I suppose, really interesting about my relationship with my parents was it started off really well, but my needs became greater as I became older and into my teenage years. And I had a lot of issues in my teenage years with regard to my adopted parents, and the relationship broke down.
Did it?
I was 16.
Right.
And I found myself homeless at that time. So it was very difficult. There was nobody for me to turn to.
No.
And the interesting thing I found with social services was that whilst you're under their care when you're in care, at that time, when you became adopted, they were nowhere to be seen.
No support.
So I was just on my own in big wide open world. And as I came in here, I don't know why I thought about this, but I was looking at what you're doing and the way that you are developing skills, developing ownership, developing young people to be able to cope on their own. I didn't have that. And I always remember when I left home that I needed a pair of underpants. And I didn't go into a shop and buy them because I just didn't think it was right. It's really weird, the sort of silly little nuances that you know.
I understand.
Yeah, it's really strange. And I was thinking to myself, I just wasn't prepared for the world, and I wasn't able to cope with the world. And just zooming forward to my police career, I used to eat my food really, really quickly. I didn't know that. But I would be the first to finish all of my food. And I always remember a fellow officer who had been in care as well, just turning around to me and says, "Were you in care?" I says, "Yeah, you know that?"
Yeah.
Says, I can tell by the way that you eat.
Yeah.
Because when you're in care and you're in big children's homes, the older ones used to nick the food off you. So the quicker you ate it, the safer you would be. So, I mean, there's some of sort of like my experiences, but I think what's important, and the message today really is about don't let your history define your future.
It's exactly that.
Absolutely. And there is a pathway, and there is a way to get out of what you might see sometimes as a bit of a spiral.
Yeah.
And now there are some huge elements of support available. Obviously what you're doing is really, really inspirational, to be honest with you. if only I'd had that when I was younger. The journey that I took to get to where I've got to now was a long journey. I mean, I'm in my 50s now, and I see not necessarily a lot of wasted time, but a lot of time where I think a more positive influence in me could have moved me faster.
Let me just ask you a question. So, what are you like at asking for help?
I don't.
Yeah.
Everything I do, I do myself. I find a way around. Yeah. I'm very fortunate that I've got a lovely wife, a lovely daughter, who are really my rock and keep me grounded. I'm terrible for asking for help.
Because that the thing, I'm asking that question because for care leavers and for like even in the language that's used for leaving care, it's all about transitioning, independence. But what we're trying to do here is it's about interdependence. So it's having those skills to be able to fend for yourself and be able to do stuff so you're not relying on other people and then become vulnerable. But when you need help, being able to ask for it and accept it. And I think for well, certainly for me and for a lot of care leavers that I work with, that's a big thing, is asking and for that help because it's okay.
Yeah. Well, you want to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
And part of your protective modes are about doing things yourself. And I think that can often lead a lot of care leaders down the wrong path, because they will gravitate towards somebody who perhaps doesn't have their best interests at heart. Yeah. And that's a threat, risk and harm that I see looking from outside in there. Yeah. And identifying that. So it's really important that you have people who you trust and who can be honest with you as well. It is, I suppose there's a lot of idiosyncrasies in my personality which probably reflect themselves to a lot of other people around the way that I behave, but that's born out of me being in care and the experience I had in care. And I'm not saying that it was necessarily a really bad experience, but it does create a particular person.
It does.
You know,
it does.
It does. Those, you know, as a person, when you're so young and so influenced in that way, that the impact on you coming out of that and getting into the real world is huge, and it's a big step.
It is.
And you know, there are forces and people out there who would see that on you. Yeah. But if you can get to an organisation like here, if you can get to the police, if you can get to your social services, whilst I understand the police are an organisation that are sometimes viewed with fear and are very much you know, there to uphold the law, they're also there to help and support vulnerable people. Yeah. And it's really important that you engage with that, for me, because they will help you. Lots of police officers out there, there's some great police officers.
And we got one right next to
absolutely, who are very much in touch with the support networks that can really help and support and make sure that you get the very best you can, and they're not going to take advantage of you.
Yeah. Sorry, can I just interject? I'm a retired police officer now, but I'm an officer from the police still, so I'm a children in care and care leaver officer. Yeah, that's my role. Okay. But I was a police officer for 30 years, and I did a lot. I did this role before, children in care officer, since 2020, which I think is when I met you. Yeah. And there is an awful lot of help and support, like you say.
Like one of the things, like in our organisation, we use a version of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which was done by a group of care experienced people and the Children's Commissioner, and each of the levels care experienced people explained what it was like, and I started to use that because we was doing a focus group, and a group was describing. But basically describing Maslow without describing it, and they'd probably never even heard of it. And it just made me think that with the social care system now, like you will have been leaving at 16, and the social care system now at 18, you would have been in a big institutionalised children's home, as I were. So things have really changed. But when you leave care, like when you're in care now, I feel like the care system now is safe in the main. It's really good at keeping people protected whilst they're in the walls of the children's home or the foster home. But the thing that it's not good at is that sense of belonging. And I can't help myself but think that some of these criminals and some of these like gangs, they are using like their own version of Maslow to coerce care leavers, because we all, you know, human beings want a sense of belonging. And that's why I love what you're doing, Ginette, with the boxing, because, like, just tell us about the boxing.
So we run a girls boxing class / circuit training once a week, and that's for any girls really that want to attend, but girls in care is predominantly who's coming, and some are care leavers as well. Some of them have been involved in incidents, and, you know, we could say from a police perspective there's demand because of what they're doing out of the boxing, you know, when they're not with us. But we can have those chats and talk about why they went missing or why they've smashed the care home up and things like that in a different way. Some arrive and they hate police, and then we explain who we are and what we're doing, and you can have those different conversations. Yeah. So we sort of do that with them. We invest so much energy with them, and they're absolutely amazing.
Do you find that the boxing breaks the barrier of your authority in theory?
We don't have an issue with them when they come. Yeah. And so the boxing has multiple reasons that are beneficial. So for, you know, we can talk about healthy relationships, all those things, and we can break down barriers with the police while we're doing a boxing thing on a pad, or while we're doing a plank. We can talk about, you know, why they might not want to do what they did last week, next week, and things like that. So that's one thing we do. We do multiple things, visits to care homes, and I work with. Yeah,
like one of the things, like when we spoke in the past, we've talked about like criminalisation of children, and, you know, it's getting better. But, you know, the thing with kids in care, you know, if you was like had a child and they're not in care and it's your child, and they went and they stole a chocolate bar, you, as a parent, you would be teaching them that that's the wrong thing to do, but you wouldn't be like marching up to the police station and getting them arrested, you know? Whereas if you're in a children's home, that might happen. Or if you're in a children's home and you have a bit of a paddy and you're unregulated and you slam a door and the window gets broken, and then the police are called, and then you might get arrested. But if it's your own child, you're kind of not going to do that. And one of the things that was really good in our conversations, Ginette, from my understanding of what you guys do, is how you make other police officers and the work that you've done to raise awareness of the care experience within the police force. You know, how's that?
A big part of our role is reducing the unnecessary criminalisation of children in care. So there's a reducing offending protocol, which we're working with. So an incident would come in and we'd put something on our system to say this is how you could deal with it. We'd reach out to the care home, you know, or the social care to say, how is it you want this to be resolved? What would you like the outcome to look like? But like you say, things wouldn't get reported necessarily in a family home that sometimes do get reported. So we would also say, we don't want this to go any further for this child. They've already had a sanction in the home. They're not going to be allowed out. They've had something taken off them. So we don't also want to prosecute them because that really isn't fair. So
and in that work, how's the attitudes and the stigma? Because we have to face it, you know.
So from a police officer perspective, they would see an incident and the understanding is getting a lot better, and trauma-informed ways of working are now being introduced more to the force, and training is happening. So in the past they might have thought, I don't know how to deal with this, it's a criminal damage, or it's a this. And when we say, actually it's this is what's triggered it, this is the situation for this poor vulnerable child in the first place, that's triggered them to cause the damage or fall out with someone else. So actually prosecuting them is the last outcome we would like. Officers are actually pleased that there are these different things you can use, and it isn't about just prosecuting or not. And like, we still capture the good work the officer's done and the joined up working with the social care and the care home, but it doesn't mean they've got to be prosecuted.
No. And that just raises that awareness. And one of the things that, like, I'm running at the moment is protected characteristics for care experienced people. And when I started the campaign, so as it goes right now, we're up to 125 local authorities across like England, Scotland and Wales. So it's got really, really big. Now, Now that campaign was born out of a promise that I made to my sister just before she died, because we'd been to a funeral and she was telling me she didn't want to be next. And all I could think of to give her hope was like, let's use our trauma to change the care system. Unfortunately, she was next. But eventually I worked out a way that I felt could create systemic change in the care system. And for me, it was all about care experienced people. That's what this is about. But as I've gone through this campaign, I've learned that actually it isn't. It's bigger than care experienced people. And what I've learned is that if you fix it for the most vulnerable, then you fix it for everybody. You know, and that, like for now, my question is are some of those approaches that you've used for care experienced people helping officers with other people that might be on the edges of care?
Oh, definitely. Before I did this, I worked with children up to the edge of care, and I used to go to the edge of care panel every week and hear about multiple things that were going on for, you know, the child was being blamed for the antisocial behaviour or because they're acting out. But what wasn't understood was what was going on in the home was causing them to not want to be in the home, so they're acting out on the street or whatever they were doing. So there's all this multiple issue going on, antisocial behaviour, domestic abuse, mental health issues, all these things within the family home, but the child, the teenager, was the one being blamed, and then you'd hear about it at the edge of care panel, then help would be put in place, and if we catch it early, that's brilliant, but sometimes unfortunately the child ends up in care. So a lot of what we're trying to do is to prevent it and put the support in place to break that cycle for the next generation as well.
No. And Gary, like, I'm sorry that your adoption broke down. What was interesting when you said was it your social worker?
Yes.
And that like strikes a chord, because obviously we've had the English care review, and one of the big things that we want to be pushed is this community and keeping children in care in their local communities. So more work, more help into schools, and help into like kinship care, so that kids can stay within their communities. And sometimes it just makes me think, you know, we're just going round in circles, you know. But how did it feel for you when you was actually in that children's home? Because to be adopted at 7 is quite a older age.
Well, you know, the statistics on the age of individuals being adopted within the care system, and the older you get, the less chance that that's going to happen for you. I mean, it happened to me. Did I know a lot about it? Did I understand it particularly? Probably not. I was in a care home. I knew my now mother because she was my social worker, so I had that relationship. So it was sort of, in that respect, a relatively easy transition. However, you're making me reflect now and think.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. That's fine. That's fine.
Well, that is the purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And the care home that I was in was predominantly run by women.
Right.
And I very rarely saw a man come into that care home. So I had a phobia about men. And I always remember the first time that my adopted mother, then my social worker, took me to meet her husband and things. And it's a fairly big bloke, and he was sat on a chair. And I just remember walking into the room and just literally turning around and just running out. Sort of like I was just.
Was he a teacher?
He was, yeah.
So he had that authority.
Yeah. But it's interesting, isn't it? The things that are going on in your head that you have absolutely no concept of or reason for. And I just remember that experience of just walking in the room and this big bloke was sat there, and I'm thinking, I don't like the look of that, and I can't cope with that, and I can't deal with that. So can you imagine a young person, police officer arrives, how does that feel to them? They're not used to having, you know, sort of large, I'll say men, it could be women as well, you know, people of authority around them. In that time, when I was 7 years old, if I had been on the streets and a police officer had approached me in some way, shape or form, I would have kicked off. Yeah. I wouldn't have been comfortable in that environment. I wouldn't have been comfortable with that person. Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to promote, having this trauma-informed lens. If you go in with a different eye, you'll get a different outcome.
Yeah, like for me, my experience with the police, my first experience is a good one. You know, I kind of, it was Christmas time and it was snowy, and I was living in a foster home in Warrington, Birchwood, with my sister. And we basically was getting abused in the children's home. And so when we went to my mum's, I've told her, and you know, I was so proud of myself for telling her. And then the social services came, and then they just took it back to the children's home, not to the children's home, back to the foster home. And my mum was like, despair, why is this happening? And she ended up phoning the police, and they just overrode social services and just literally went straight to the foster home. You know, took us, gave me a badge, and just placed us back with my mum. You know, obviously it broke down later on, but you know, so that's my good experience of the police. But I was, you know, involved with the police, all, you know, running away, you know, 100 places I lived in, you know, so I was always like running back home and getting taken back. But quite often now, the first experience with the police is when either somebody's gone missing or they're attending the children's home or something like that. So what you're doing is just really, really significant for other local authorities or other police forces, Dan, you know, because this is really good. You know, I go all over the country. You know, I speak to lots of people all over the country. You know, are you able to promote this to other kind of? I'm putting you on the spot now, but are you able to like promote this fantastic team that you've got here? Because I know you've been doing this a while, Ginette, but it really is significant.
Yeah, I think what I will do is we have associated police and crime commissioners, and we meet. But what I will do is I will get us on the agenda, and we'll go down to London and talk to all of the other police forces around the potential and the possibility of introducing these teams, which I think are absolutely invaluable.
I really think it's brilliant. And then the other thing that I really wanted to touch on is kids in care, and you know, they want this sense of belonging, and sometimes they can find it in gangs. You know, sometimes, you know, there's also, we don't need to go into all the technicalities of how it all works, but well we can, like, you know, for what are you seeing in terms of kids in care and gang related like county lines and
Well, so my previous role, I was a police officer. I was a police officer for 15 years.
It was on the special task force.
In Nottinghamshire, and I worked on a team called Vanguard Plus. And it was very much the birthplace of doing it in terms of a partnership, working with other agencies and bringing them in to support some of the work that we did. But what I found was that a lot of individuals who were involved in gun, gang and knife crime were involved because they experienced severe trauma. And it was reflecting in their behaviour moving forward. And clearly they're being influenced by negative forces, as it were. And the reality is that when we talk about trauma-led, most crime and most people involved in crime is generally related to the fact that they've experienced something that has created a form of behaviour or a form of protection that results in sometimes quite severe violence. It can do. And it's really important that now we recognise that. You talked a little bit around environment as well. I think environment is really key. As to where you're comfortable. And with the NHS are going through a reorganisation. Everywhere seems to be going through a reorganisation. But the NHS are looking at things like place, place-led services. You know, when we talk about mental health and we talk about people in their environment, why is that environment difficult for them? What is it that's triggering in that environment that creates, the behaviours that we see?
It's all emerging.
It's all interlinked. It's all interlinked. And some can go towards crime, a life of crime, and be influenced by those individuals because they're, like I say, they're looking for belonging, they're looking for place, they're looking to be somebody, they're looking to achieve something, and some can't cope with that, and some have severe mental health issues in our communities that we need to support as well. So it's sort of the whole thing interlinked, and it all plays a part in this sort of river of our communities. And it's really important that we have what I call stop-off points and intersections going into that, so that we can start actually addressing some of the issues that are in the middle of that. And that's where this team comes into play, and they pick up and zoom in on those individuals that are extremely vulnerable, but there is a bigger story around them, and the support that's going to be required to make sure that they come out of that river, as it were.
Yeah, like obviously we run supported accommodation, and we don't run children's homes, so the youngsters are free to come and go. But obviously all our staff are trained in looking for signs. So for a youngster who suddenly gets a new pair of trainers, or has suddenly got the latest phone, suddenly got money, like the process of kind of recruiting care experienced people into these county lines networks could start just by things being given away, and then suddenly they owe money, and then suddenly they're in a trap house. In terms of a message to like people that work with care leavers, what are the signs that they should be? Because obviously, if we catch it early enough, what are the signs that they should be?
Well, the signs are some of what you've just said, but there's training available for all placements. I advertise it, I send it out. It's offered by the Children's Society, a full-day training for things to look out for.
Brilliant.
So it's the change of behaviour, it's the unaccounted for new clothes or money, things like that, finding drugs in there that's, a lot of drugs, things like that, going missing.
Is this just in Nottinghamshire, or is that
this could be countrywide, couldn't it?
So if there's any like accommodation providers, children's homes providers, they can all access that.
So there's three of us. There's me and the 2 city children in care officers. We send out resources to all the placements and care homes that we've got contacts for, and we work with placements as well, so the commissioning officers know who we are. If we've got a new resource to send out, so things like CSE, so sexual exploitation or criminal exploitation, the training's available. We really want providers to do the training, because then they can help feed in the puzzle, the picture to the police. We can all work together, join it up better, and help protect the young person ultimately, and disrupt the behaviour of the gangs who are doing that.
And what about if there's somebody like who's involved in that and they feel like they've got nowhere to turn?
So at 16, 17, in this county, you'd have a personal advisor. You still might have a social worker at 16, so they would work with you. We are partly, so for me in the county, I cover the county. I've got a social care manager, so I link in with her managers. They all contact me about various things every day. If they need help with someone, I'll go and see someone. There's people that we can reach out to for them. So I say about the boxing for the girls, there is things available for boys as well. It's we just do it for the girls. So there is a lot of support out there, and I would say if it's a county person, contact me and I can put you in touch with someone. If it's a city person, it's Sam and Becky.
And then if it's somebody elsewhere in the country,
we can help them. Maybe I could redirect them to that force.
It's really good.
There's a few forces, I know some details, but you haven't got me and all the other forces, no.
So in terms of, I think, in terms of inspiration, what would you say to young care leavers right now that are not seeing past the next day, in terms of a message that they can achieve? Because it is like care leavers month right now. So there's like local authorities, there's all sorts of organisations all over the country right now celebrating care leavers. And I know that if you can give the right support, like we run the jobs programmes for instance, and we brought it over, the concept over from the States, and the way it works is it's not just about giving a job to a care leaver so that they can kind of earn money and go into the employer and say, no, feel sorry for this care leaver, they've had a hard time. What my colleagues and friends in the States did, and I genuinely believe they were the first to do it. Certainly from where I've looked internationally, is they was able to demonstrate a business case of why, if they put the right effort in and do it a little bit differently for care leavers, why businesses there's a business case. So what they did is they basically went to a supermarket chain in the States and they said, look, we've got care leavers, we want to run a jobs program. What is it that you're looking for? Yeah, let us come in and profile your best person, but what is it that you're looking for? And they said, well, our retention rate is 35% for standard general population, young people in entry-level jobs. So we're basically rehiring and retraining 65% of our entry-level jobs every 6 months. So if you can improve on that, then we're going to save £5,000 per person and get a more retention within our workplace. So they went away and they matched and they did things differently because obviously we have to do it differently because care leavers, for instance, they don't have like mum or dad to take them to work or to wake them up in the morning, all that stuff that you do for your kids. So they did this program and the retention for their cohort of care leavers rose to 89.9%. Yeah. And when you look at the video, now I know why, and I'm sure you do, but I'm going to just ask you, why do you think that if you put the right support for care leavers and then they get into work, why is that such a big difference between 35% and 90%? What do you think that might be?
I think there's a lot in there that you just let me unpack it a little bit in the sense that I think that there's a few things I think you've already said. So you've already identified. The first thing I'd say to any care leaver out there is don't be afraid to ask for help. It is the most difficult step, I understand, but ask for help. Reach out and ask for help. The help and support will come, definitely come. The other thing I think as well is what we mustn't underestimate is that it's the simple things that have the biggest effect. So what you're talking about there is making sure that the care leaver gets up in the morning, making sure that they get washed, dressed and out of the house. The sort of thing mum and dad would do. This is not complex. Some of the issues are complex, but the actual practical solutions to making sure that we get a better response from our care leavers in terms of making sure that they have a future, making sure that they're disciplined, making sure that they eat, making sure they go to bed, making sure they wake up. It's the simple things if you think about it that a parent does naturally that actually give them that structure. And a lot of this is about structure and having those boundaries and understanding where those boundaries are. And that's why you see the difference there. Yeah. It's not complex stuff.
It's not.
It really isn't. And when I listen to you there, I think it is the simple things that are being put in place. Yeah. And that makes it
makes a huge difference because if they're late and the employer doesn't understand that stuff, then they might go for a formal, if they keep doing it, they might go for a formal process and then the young person might think, oh, I'm not going to do this. But if they just blend it and change it slightly and have that understanding, and then when it actually works, the sense of belonging for the care leaver, because that will sometimes be, some not all care leavers, but, a lot of care leavers are coming from, second, third generation families that are living in poverty, that are not working, so this will be the first time that they've been in a working situation. And from looking at the care leavers that we put in work, they really do get that sense of belonging from work.
I think there's incredible loyalty in care leavers. Yeah. If you treat them right and treat them with respect. Yeah. More loyalty than you get from your average person, I think.
And that's a fact, because that's what this programme shows. Retention, 90%. And that's through right across every state in America. It's been properly evaluated, 90%. They also get promoted twice as quick, which is exactly what the employer wants. Twice as quick. And the loyalty, that's what we get. So look, thank you so much, and I hope there's so much to talk about, and there really is. But is there anything that you want to just say?
Just to say thank you for having me. I'm a big supporter of yourself and the work that you do. I'm a big supporter of our team. We are the only team in the country at this point in time. So you can rest assured that I will put that out to other police forces and put the pressure on them to say, you know what, this is actually really value for money, not just value for money, but it really affects your communities and you get a really good outcome. And to all those care leavers out there, I think we've already said it, reach out, ask for help. The help will be there. And if you need a police officer, then go to a police officer. They are there to help you. Or go to Ginette, and Ginette will help you. And, hopefully we'll give you the support that you need in order to get to where you want to get to in life.
And we're going to let Superstar have the last word.
Over to you, Ginette.
No, I'd just say, things go wrong in life, and each bit, there's stepping stones along the way, and never give up hope is what I would say.
Yeah, that's a real good end. Thank you so much, and thank you for the team at Nottinghamshire University for filming this. Thank you.